So welcome to the Community and Societies talk. I'm Danny.
I'm Oliver Johnson.
And yeah, if you want to put any questions over the course of the thing, whack them into the Q&A bit and we'll answer them at the end.
Indeed.
Over the course of this talk, we're going to be answering the great question, how do you create a community in a student media society? But we think that it will also apply to societies in general anyway, if you're here from a non-student media society. And the 4 key points we're going to go across over the next sort of 45 minutes or so are on the screen right now, and they are leading from the front, identity is key, more emphasis on fun, and good times only. These are things that we think are really key for a community in stations, and we're going to go through these in more detail over the course of this talk. But the important question is, I know you're all thinking it, who are we? So I'm Danny, and I'm the station manager at Radio Sonar, Solent Uni's radio station, and I am also the South Regional Officer of the Student Radio Association. I've been at Radio Sonar since first year, but only fully got into student radio over the course of the last year.
Yep. So hi, I'm Oliver Johnson. I'm also a member of Radio Sonar and a film and television student as well. I've been a part of Radio Sonar for 3 years, but I'm not a committee member. So I'm going to give a perspective from inside the radio community, however, not within the organisation of anything that goes on.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of projects together over the years, so we've got inside scoop.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with the first section that we've lovingly called The Beginning, which is related to leading from the front. And the first question we're going to tackle, and this is something that we're going to tackle over the course of the whole presentation, and that is anyone even listening? And that was said to us by Theopathetis earlier this year. Theopathetis is a dragon from Dragon's Den, and he's also the Chancellor of our uni, and Ollie's going to explain to us how this came about.
Yes, so we were luckily given the opportunity to be able to host a 24-hour chart show to raise money for Student Minds, which is a mental health charity for students. And as a part of this, we spoke to Theopathetis, who is our Chancellor of the uni, and also, you might know, a dragon. So we spoke to him on the show. And we had a very swift interview with him. And a question that he kept asking us was if anyone was in fact listening.
And we are going to explain that over the course of this talk. So we started off the year, when I took over back in like April time last year, something that I really wanted to do was grow a community within the station. I'd been to the Student Radio Conference, and I'd seen how other stations were sort of interacting and engaging and sort of being proud of their station. It's something that I wanted to replicate within Radio Sonar. But I felt like the sort of studio and website and all this type of thing that we had would make it hard to do that, because it did seem a bit outdated. I don't know if you can see the website. Well, you can see the website. It's in the corner, but it's just not the nicest looking thing. And I don't know where that purple wall came from, but it was something that, yeah. So I and a couple of, like 2 others, spent most of the summer starting this process of, we wanted our studio to be at the highest standard possible, because we wanted our members to be able to achieve the highest standard of content they wanted to do. And we felt like we had to improve that in order to get them to be able to do that. You know, if you're in a better environment, then that creates a better opportunity for your members and your society to achieve. And the reason this is so important is because of me and the 2 others involved spent all of our time doing this. It started this gradual process that we're going to explain in a second, that sort of got people on the wavelength of our society. And this was like the earliest step in our community feel. And when you say the magic word, Ollie, we'll show them the finish. And we'll show them the finished thing. So this is where stuff looks like in our studio now as a result. And this is something that, you know, when I took over as station manager, we didn't have the strongest support networks within the uni or the SU. It was something that we told ourselves that we wanted to achieve by the end of the year. But again, we knew that we had to start this with our own, as our own passion project, and to use up our free time in order to start that process. So in order to get a new website, you know, we didn't have the funds to start that process of, you know, getting people to being able to spend loads of money on it. So I found out there was a web design course within our uni, which I think quite a few vocational unis have. And, you know, this guy, Mike Allen, very kindly created this whole website for us as part of a portfolio piece. And, you know, that's been quite key for us to just look more professional and to come across nicer to, you know, potential listeners. And then, as you can see, our studio looks a lot nicer now. It's crazy what a white room can do. It makes it look a lot bigger. You can also see, I think that's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 on Xbox 360. That was a great day when I brought that. I don't know why it's in the photo, but obviously at the time I felt like it was necessary. But because we did all this work, it really started to build up excitement within the society, because they could see that changes were happening. Like previously, you know, we were doing the same sort of level every year. Like the previous station manager did a fantastic job, but we weren't doing big changes that meant that it would have a knock-on effect to everyone else. And it was really this, like, leading from the front from a station manager point of view that pushed us into getting that realm. This had a knock-on effect to the committee. So I was quite, I don't want to say lucky, but I had a 4-person committee. So obviously that affected how things were done on a bigger process, in a different way to societies that have a bigger committee. I know some stations that I'm friends with have like 15, 20 people, and, you know, if that works for them, fair enough, but I'm quite happy with my little tiny committee. And the stuff, these questions here are things I felt were really important over the year, again, to sort of get that community feel within the society. I had started this goal at the beginning of the year that I wanted to redecorate stuff to start this process of improving the society and the station. And because they'd seen the hard work that, you know, I'd put in, they started to get on that wavelength as well. And that sort of just kept going throughout the year. And it really helped the fact that they believed in the station and that they believed in the vision that we had to try achieve at the end of the year. And everyone within the committee played their part. Henry in the top left was our social sec, and he realised that socials we were doing previously that were all sort of like drinky laddie, you know, didn't really suit our media society, because you know, not everyone within the media society wants to be like that. So he started doing socials that that included more people, and Veronica was doing like the programming stuff. She's in the top right, and then Josh was helping me a lot with stuff in the studio. But because we were all playing our part and we were all trying to achieve this same goal, it meant that the committee was a cohesive unit that really helped with the community feel early on. And because we were doing that and we were showing it and we were leading from the front, it really translated into our presenters.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Danny, as well, actually, because I'm not a member of the committee.
Do it.
I want to know if it was a good thing that your team was quite condensed when it came to decision making.
I think so, in the sense that we were quite a small station, and because we wanted to achieve quite a big change in a short time, it was easier that we were a smaller committee, because it was easier to get your point across and to have the same goal. I mean, my worry, if I had a bigger, like, we've moved up to 6 this year, but my worry that if we had sort of 10 plus, that it would be harder to get everyone sort of on that same wavelength. Everyone will have different goals they want to achieve. And I personally felt that it was easier with 4 to do that. And especially, I think it was one of the most key things for us in terms of getting community feel going was having that sort of 4 easily identifiable people that people can interact with. Like, I was quite keen on making the committee quite approachable, and that was quite such a big thing for us in terms of, you know, that early stages of the community feel.
Nice.
Thanks, man. So we're going to move on to the second section, which is up the sonar, and identity is key. If you've seen our social medias, particularly our Twitter over the year, you've seen up the sonar, and you've probably got annoyed by it. Sorry about that. But when I took over, I took over in April, and what I've done is I've got a couple of stats from the beginning, from just before I took over. And at the end of this section, I'm going to show you some stats at the end of, like, for the same time period a year later, because I think it's really interesting to show that, you know, the identity we've created with our social media presence has again played into that community element. And you can see that the improvement has worked as a result. So between January and March last year, we had 62,000 impressions on Twitter, which is still a decent number, but that's where we were at. We had 74 retweets, and we had 270 likes. So they're not bad numbers, but we felt that it could easily be improved, as this survey shows. 90% said that this could be improved. So this was something that we really set out to do, because again, we felt that having a social media that people could engage with within the society meant that it was sort of building up this sort of community feel. I'm going to say community feel so many times over the course of this. I apologise.
It is what the talk is about.
It is what the talk is about.
It's quite an important word.
So I've got a little timeline. So we realised that our Twitter account had no style or purpose. We wanted to change that. So we started doing more posts aimed at students, which was basically sort of memes per se, if you want to call it that. Basically, you know, laughing at ourselves, all this type of thing. And this started, you know, again, I think the easiest thing I've said to people, the thing I've said the most to people, if people ask me how the year went, I would say that it just got out of hand really fast, and it just sort of kept spiraling. And this social media is a great example.
I think it's good that you focused on Twitter over other forms of social media as well, as we know that students tend to engage with that a little bit more, and it's easier for content to sort of spread a little bit.
Yeah, it was something that we kept our Facebook fairly similar and more like the professional sense, because we knew that, you know, that's people didn't really want, people, like, from my experiences this year, people don't really care for a station's Facebook posts, and they sort of care for Instagram posts, but mainly if it's just a cool photo or a funny caption.
I think Twitter, it's the speed of content that it comes out, engaged with people a lot.
And you can really get an identity for your station from that. Yeah. Like, I get criticized all the time for people, because if you see a Sonar tweet, it doesn't have capitals, but the fact that people like make comments about that, for me, shows that like I've successfully got an identity for that Twitter account, because you recognize that thing as a staple, and that's just what step 3 is all about. An identity began to form, and then step 4 is having that identity, and the way we're going to explain that to you guys is through our chart show in Spain. If you don't know anything about the SRA chart show, the SRA Music Network is a fantastic sort of subdivision of the SRA, where they really focus on giving stations opportunities through interviews and highlighting local artists and artists that maybe you haven't heard of before. And every Sunday, 2 till 4, stations get to take turns to host it, and it gets sort of played out on all the other stations. And it's this really exciting sort of syndicate chart show thing that is a great opportunity for everyone within student radio. I mean, if you're watching this in your station that isn't involved in that, then it's something that I highly recommend. But when we had the opportunity to do it in January, and we decided that we wanted to do something different, we wanted to get more engagement. Although people always paid attention to it, from my experiences, it always seemed to be that the stations that were doing it were the ones that interacted with that week the most. And we also decided that we just wanted to play a prank on as many people as possible.
I think there's a big potential to sort of challenge ourselves to try something different. Through this SRA chart show, with the sort of audience that they have, we felt like we had the opportunity to.
100%. And it's something that we felt fitted in with the identity that we had created on our social media over the course of the year, and fitted in. It was something that all our members could get involved on and shout about. But Ollie, I want to know, where did it start? It's
a great question. So it started in Wagamama's.
Wagamama,
yeah. As all great plans start.
As every single great plan ever starts there. Yeah. And here is the early stages. I mean, if you're here solely to learn about community, we will get back onto it. But this is something that, again, I think it is a big part of how the community worked for us, but it's also a funny story.
I feel like it's a good story about how we engaged with a vaster audience than we would have done without doing it. So shall I vaguely go through what these photos mean?
Do it.
Nice. So me and Danny, it was a Friday night. We're students. Most students would be having a party, having a good time. But not me and Danny. We thought we'd go to Wagamama, have a nice romantic meal between two of us. And we decided we want to do something different. We want to get out there, try something new. So we said, let's go to Winchester, being Southampton students, 15 minutes on the train. As we're on the train, I'm getting really excited about going to this cathedral. And
you were very excited.
Yeah, and as soon as we get to this cathedral, Danny adds a little tag onto it that we're in Spain, in front of, as you can see down below. All of a sudden, we're getting messages left, right and centre. What are you doing in Spain? Why are you in Spain? Accidentally fooling all sorts of people. And this sparks a little light bulb in our minds as we've got the SRA chart show coming up very soon.
But before it sparked this idea, we got very carried away. So this is on our radio show. This is on our radio show's Instagram, and as you can see, we somehow managed to travel from Spain to Greece within 13 minutes. But you know, this was something that we thought worked, and because it was a small audience within our Instagram, we decided to do it on a bigger scale.
Yeah. So exactly.
We're now going to explain how that worked. Yeah. The following week, we got a train to Bournemouth. As you can see from the left, that is Bournemouth Beach.
Very luckily on the day of the year.
I think it was the only sunny day that week.
Yeah.
We took a variety of promo videos that we would then be able to post. The funny thing about the photo, which has got the boombox on it, is that we originally put the weather on it. And it was 8 degrees at the time, and I added a 3 on it using text. And then when it got to the day we were going to post it, it just wasn't 38 degrees in Spain. So we added a little boombox over the top to
cover up our forgery.
Yeah, and we also went to that's Ollie, but that's us at Bournemouth Aquarium.
Yeah, a little day trip because we sort of scheduled certain trips that we were having in Spain.
And we also tried to change the logo for the chart show, but we won't
talk about that one.
Won't talk about that one. And then later on in the it was like 2, I think so the chart show was going out on Sunday. Friday evening we went to Southampton Airport. One of the most awkward trips of my life.
We felt very suspicious for no reason.
I think we were in the airport for under 5 minutes. We got the train there. I got a return ticket. Ollie got 2 singles.
Spent £7 on a 10-minute
we took the photo in the middle outside Southampton Airport, went into the middle bit. I sat down. Ollie awkwardly stood outside the departures thing. We got the photo and then we left. And the photo on the left is an Instagram photo from 2014 that we added captions over to make it look it. And then we posted those photos. So the process had started of people on our social media going, oh, wait, what? Are they actually, where are they going? I don't know. And in order to tie that in, we used the stuff from the trip in Bournemouth and these to create the schedule.
Yeah. We almost had a little portfolio of content we were going to release at certain times.
It was a detailed plan, that's for sure. We tweet decked a bunch of tweets over that weekend, the Saturday and Sunday, to go out. And the beautiful thing about tweet deck is that you can't really see where it's from. But it enabled us to focus on the actual chart show itself. I just lost the ability to talk. Whilst we were focusing on, so we were focusing on doing that whilst these tweets were going out, creating this illusion. But in order to try and make a more like consistent prank of it, basically, I put the times in my calendar, as you can see on the left, when to post them on Instagram. So that it was sort of helping that sort of like we kind of felt like the more we flooded people with it, the more convincing it would be. Yeah. And as you can see, it did seem to work. People were excited at the idea that the chart show was in Spain for the first time. Yeah,
we were getting a lot of messages on the day as well.
Yeah. It was...
Some believing us, some not, but nevertheless.
So we decided we had 2 tests for success with it. Did people fall for it, and did more people than normal enter the competition? This whole chart show was about bringing eyes to Radio Sonar. People didn't know who we were within the realms of student radio, and we wanted to bring people together. We wanted to highlight our station and also bring more attention to us. And these were the 2 tests we felt that would do that. There's so many elements of this that people probably don't even. We nearly interviewed Twin Atlantic live on the show, but they pulled out at the last minute because they're playing Southampton on the day. But anyway, did it work? Yes.
Here is some great evidence of high caliber.
Here are some people tweeting us saying about us being in Spain. So we felt like during the show, it worked basically.
Yeah.
Pardon?
We got worried that it got too far as well.
We worried it got too far because the very lovely, incredible human being that is Seb Cheer contacted me halfway through the show, offering us custom jingles. So the SRA chart show has jingles that come with it, and we were offered custom jingles by him in Spanish. And as much as we really felt bad and if we felt bad, but we accepted them and we played them out onto the show. And I've loved Seb with all my heart ever since, and I've felt so sorry. But all these tweets were bringing eyes to Sonar, and as a result of that, more people were seeing us and following us and paying attention. And this is shown really nicely in the next slide. we had 54 entrants into our competition, which is
incredible.
a crazy number. And our tweets over the course of just the Sunday alone had 15.2k impressions. And 9.7 of those were on that competition tweet alone. 9.7 thousand people. That's 9 point. Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Saw that tweet and therefore heard of Radio Sonar and what we were doing as a result. And, you know, although with me and you were presenting it, there was Dylan, Josh and Andy were huge parts of that, which was incredible stuff. So what I'm going to show you now is the stats of where we were a year later. So the reason we were showing that chart show, as we said, was because we'd created this identity for ourselves on social media that we felt that people could interact with, and we felt that our station could, you know, it was easier. I think there's an element of student radio and student media where stations feel like they have to be as professional as possible on their social medias, because that's what they're like, that's the industry they're trying to replicate into, which is fine. Like, I'm not criticizing if people want to do that, but we think this has worked really well for us over the time period. Because it enabled us to have more freedom, and I think members maybe enjoyed it more as a result. So this is our stats for 1 year on. Our amount of Twitter impressions had gone up 88%, not bad. Our amount of Twitter retweets had gone up 358%, up to 339, again, pretty decent. And our amount of Twitter likes had gone up 240%, up to 920. So again, this is really showing for me how important a brand identity can be for a student station, because it helped people outside. It ticks off so many boxes. I think for me, you know, loads of people are recognizing who we are now. More people are aware of us. The members within the station have more freedom to like be themselves. Like, I know everyone always talks about student radio, you can make mistakes and all this type of thing, but by having this sort of like laughy, memey.
Yeah, because I feel like myself, I never went into radio as the society to get a career out of it or anything. I purely did it just because I liked music. I wanted to do a music show. And from that enjoyment, I then roped you in. I was like, yeah, you'd definitely be in student radio. It's just a good laugh. It's just new people.
I literally had no interest in student radio. And then Ollie was like, it's kind of fun. You should try it. And then I tried it. And as I said,
here we are.
It's snowballed. And again, as we said, like, this is, at the beginning, before we led from the front, the SU and the uni didn't really pay much attention to us. And we wanted to achieve that. And because we had this loud Twitter presence and this identity, they were seeing what we were doing on a more regular basis. Yeah. And that worked out really well for us. So as you can see on the left, the SU did an article about, the university did an article about our 24-hour project, and the SU quote tweeted it with Up the Sonar. And then Theo Pathetis, this is before he came on and said about no one listening, but he again tweeted Up the Sonar. And this is something that, you know, we felt that we had achieved something with this identity. Like Up the Sonar is quite a well-known thing now, sort of. I don't know.
What's interesting actually about the student union, what you mentioned, is before getting involved with radio and doing these events, I didn't know anyone that worked in the student union. I wouldn't be able to like come to them if I wouldn't know where to go. Whereas through these and through Sonar becoming more recognised and the relationship building between them, I now know even more within my own university where I go to for certain different things, building that community, as you say, larger.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of great talks at the Student Ops Festival this week. They're talking about the relationship between the student medias and societies with SUs. And, you know, I can say as well that, like, because of our new connections with them, it made it easier for us. So, but because we had this community, you know, that did have the knock-on effect, like you say, with people within the society getting better interactions within the SU, and their university experience probably better as a result. Which I think is really interesting. So the main thing I just want to sort of get across is that, like, the identity has been a really long process this year, but it's still not over. Like, we know we could still be a lot better with what we're doing on our social medias. You know, certain stuff comes up that means we, you know, might have to change a bit who we are, but it's something that we're really proud of. And it's something that we think has been a major part of the success of our community and within our station, and just the success of our station in general.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the next section now, which is a social network, more emphasis on fun. I'm really proud of all these section names. I'm not gonna lie to you, Ollie.
I like the colours. I can't lie.
Thanks,
man.
Put that out there. Thanks, man. So the first section we want to talk about is socials. As we sort of mentioned earlier, like previous years, the socials had been more heavily emphasized on just sort of drinking and like going out more. And we knew that as a student media society, like there were a lot of members that wanted to interact more. Like this community was growing, but because these were the type of socials that was happening, like they weren't fully interacting and like engaging. So it's something that we started to change as early as possible. Like these are things that sort of feel like seem obvious, but like are really quite important as well. So like, if you, this photo is from our Christmas dinner and everyone sort of came in their own separate groups. But because as a committee, we made sure to try sort of merge everyone. Everyone had a better sort of community time and like family feel of the event because everyone was interacting in the end. And my advice for people is that like, if you're doing these socials as a society, please do make sure that everyone feels involved because there are some people there that want to be involved and maybe wouldn't say it as much. I think luckily because we as a committee were quite keen to sort of be like engageable and interactive with like people who didn't feel comfortable with those types of socials were happy to tell me that and we could change that. But you know, it's really important, especially in terms of student media, to have these socials because if you're just doing like a radio show, for example, you might not interact with anyone else. And these socials are a great way of doing that. And as you can see, everyone looks well happed with our Christmas theme.
I'd also say that structure was a big thing this year, which aided our socials. Because I've been, say, a member of the Radio Society for a number of years. And this year was the first year that a structure to socials, like having them weekly, having them at a set place, a set time, meant that a sort of regular group of people would start turning up. And it meant that rather than just having a one-off, you then get like the core members of the society that get to meet more people within the society. And I think that makes a more enjoyable experience within radio because you get to know the people around you, which I didn't initially know when I first joined.
Yeah, 100%. And that sort of leads on quite nicely to the 24-hour show. Sonar never had done these before, just a sort of 24-hour show to raise money for charity. So, you know, the first thing about this 24-hour show is that it was just a great opportunity and we're really happy with how that went. But it was also really interesting, we felt, from a community point of view. We were quite lucky because we did this early March. So we got well lucky with timings, but we had this community we had this, was literally a week beforehand. We had this community that existed beforehand. And because of that, people wanted to get involved with this event. But because this event happened, the community grew as a result. So it sort of like worked quite well. It sort of ticked both boxes. And the thing that we really liked is that we were quite keen to, when pushing this event to members, is that we wanted people to come on to talk about how Sonar helped them and what they've got from Sonar. And that meant that when people were listening and people were interacting with our 24-hour show, they were hearing non-stop stories about like just our community basically, which was really nice, especially for me and you when we were hosting it. Like it kept us going quite a lot.
Yeah, you don't realize how much a society within universities gives people a space to sort of feel a part of something and feel part of a group, which I feel is quite important, especially at university, because a lot of people have come on their own to a new place, and finding a group where you feel comfortable is very important. And I feel like this 24-hour show, the amount of people that applied and wanted to be on it within the society displayed this really nicely.
Yeah, and I think that does come back to that sort of thing. And like, I think pretty much by this point, everyone within the society was on sort of one vision of like, we just want to improve and we just want to have fun with it. Yeah. We don't, and that really we felt showed during the 24-hour thing, which was, you know, really nice for us. And you know, the positive relationship we had with the SU at this point helped us a lot with that. So, you know, we owe a lot to them for looking out for us in that sort of time period.
Yeah.
And then the last thing from like a socials point of view, we've put our beloved five-a-side team on there. But the reason we're including this is because we created a five-a-side this year because we wanted to see, again, we wanted to try as many avenues as possible to sort of build this community within the station. And this was quite an interesting way of doing it without being outside of student media and going to the socials. So like some of the guys in that photo were doing shows but didn't really want to go to the socials. They thought they were a bit lame, which is fair enough. but they got involved with the five-a-side team, and as a result of that five-a-side team, all of them are love our society and station now, which I think is really nice. And then they came to more socials and stuff as a result. So, like,
it's different avenues, as you say, is to sort of hit the different sort of types of people and people that are involved in different things. Because radio is so vast, like sports, music, however you like to be involved. There's different ways that are going to appeal to different people, so you need to cater to them through different sort of events.
I think my advice on this slide would be, don't put all your eggs in one basket when you're trying to make it. If you're keen to have a community, like, you can't rely just on socials, because you won't necessarily get, you know, the full turnout of your station. But if you try these other things, it might get people in through that way. And the other thing it's worth saying is, like, getting involved with the student media organizations and their training events, you know, although it helps with your industry knowledge, but also gives you different social circles. So like, I've put here that this enables interactions with other similar societies and stations. As a result of this vibe, I want to say vibe, but it sounds a bit lame. As a result of our society on our social media and the stuff we've done, I've created more connections with other stations within the SRA and been able to do projects with them. And that has been really nice to start to create this sort of community feel within the SRA, especially within our region, but like even outside the region. Like, we've done projects with Express in Cardiff and Livewire, you know, UEA. So it's quite interesting that, like, the community we've created within Sonar has been seen from the outside perspective, and people have wanted to get involved in that. And it's something that, you know, we're really proud of. We're really happy that has happened.
100%.
Because, like, did you know many people outside of Sonar?
Initially, for the first 2 years of radio, I only knew my co-host and you, the people. Like, there wasn't any events that I could say. There were ones that went on, but I wasn't in the loop enough. As you say, the routine, that I didn't get to know anyone within the station at all. Really, I didn't know who was in the committee.
I think with student radio and probably all student medias in general, it's really easy to stay, like, if you want to just stay out of that loop. Like, it would be very easy to just sort of do your show or help with the project and then not interact with anything else. And, like, for me, like, I've always been a bit paranoid that the amount of stuff I post in our group to try and get people, like, slightly more engaged has been annoying. But I know that
it's needed.
It is needed because it is keeping it fresh in people's minds. And you know, that we've benefited as a society and a station as a result, which has been really nice. Like, we don't have all the answers. We're just telling you what we've learned from our experience. But that's why this is a really important slide to me personally. I know some people think differently. There's a large percentage of people that do student media with the sole focus of getting into the industry, but I really want to emphasize that, like, it's not just for those people. And if you're up top in your committee and you're on your station manager and you're just trying to drill home, like, industry opportunities, that's fine. That's great. They are obviously very important, but there is a large percentage of people that probably will be the ones that aren't interacting with like your committee as much, that are literally just doing it for fun. And if you can manage to drill into that sort of area, then that's when you've hit the jackpot. And that's when, you know, those people will fall in love with it, and your station can have a lot of more fun opportunities as a result. I think personally that's what's happened this year for us. We've really managed to drill into the section of our station that is just people doing it for fun. And I think that's why we've had all these interactions with other stations, because they've seen that and they want to do these stuff with us. I myself has only been doing it, like, I started for fun, and even though I'm, you know, part of the SRA and all this other thing, I'm still keen to push to my society that, like, the fun parts for me are as important as the industry stuff. So if you're watching this and you want to do the community, emphasizing the fun and letting people have fun and freedom is such a big part of achieving that. Because if we weren't trying to do that at Sonar, it wouldn't have happened, like, no matter how hard we tried, I think.
And there's so many skills you pick up along the way that can that can be put into other careers, like the organisation skills or putting a show on, the confidence you'll gain through just having a show, speaking, stuff like that. It's all skills.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I mean, that's the joy of the student medias at the end of the day. But it's just something that we felt that was really important to emphasize. Section 4, recognition. Good times only. So we'd done this sort of process over the year, which, as I said, I personally think there's still loads more work to do, but so it started off with me. I had this vision, I had this goal, and I started doing loads to try and improve it. The committee got on board as a result, and they were starting on that wavelength, and the community started to grow. Then the people in the society beforehand, or the people that I were mates with, began to get on board because they could see what we were doing and appreciated it. And then we managed to get people involved that were just doing it for fun, and they managed to get on board. And I think it was this sort of gradual path up of including all these people that meant that we had this success that we've had this year. And we wouldn't have been able to have this success on any level if those people hadn't been involved and been willing to sort of try these things out for Sonar as much as they had. And this is just a small slide of how this has benefited us. Like the university posting articles about us, that literally never happened before. Now we've had quite a few recently, which has been incredible. The local media posting about us hadn't happened in 10 years, but they had seen everything we've been doing and were keen to shout about us. Our SU very kindly awarded us some of their union awards, which again, we'd sort of done well previously, but not to the extent we've done this year. And then the I Love Student Radio Awards, which is like one of the two national awards that this SRA does, awarded us Best Station Culture as well as a couple of others. But none of these things would have happened if we didn't have that community. Like we've done all right as a station this year, but the 100%, the biggest thing for us is the most successful and most satisfying thing for us as a station has been the community that we've got and the identity we've got. And this has come across really nicely through this. But like, as I said, there's still so much more we can do. And so that leaves our answer to Theo, as we mentioned at the beginning, is that yes, Theo, people are listening and people are paying attention, because they might not have been at the beginning, but because we've grown as a committee and a community and as a station, as a society, people are paying attention. And if stations and societies start to get, if other station societies get this community feel as well, then people within their university and outside their university, I believe, will start paying attention too. So just to quickly recap, the four key things for me, what you should get from this talk, is that the role of the committee is so important. They have to lead from the front, because if they're doing a half-hearted approach, then there's no way your members will have a full-on passionate approach. Like it's not going to work like that. Identity is key. Does your society have an identity? This is something they always talk about in marketing stuff all the time. Like, who are you as a brand? Can you sum up a sentence? I can't really sum up Sonar in a sentence because we haven't achieved that identity yet, but I believe that we're getting there, and I believe that we're recognizable, and that our members are happy and proud to shout about our station, which they weren't at the beginning of the year. More emphasis on fun. Student media should be fun. That sums up quite nicely, I think.
That's why we're here at the end of the day.
That's why we're here at the end of the day, yeah. And the last one, good times only. I put live, laugh, love. I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of a sentence there. So that's what I went for my recap. And then the last thing we want to talk about before we answer some questions and stuff is that there's one more talk from the SRA at 5 till 6. There's more to radio than presenting. We've got a fantastic lineup. So if you're watching this and you're interested in that, then highly recommend going along to that. And that's everything. So we're gonna answer some questions. If you've got any questions,
there's some in the Q&A already. So if you've got any more, as you say, whack them in there. The first one is from Dom.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah, you can have a little look if you want, because you'll be able to answer these first. They're more directed at you, I guess.
Right. What am I doing, Dom?
Yeah.
So Dom's from Newcastle Student Radio. Hello, Dom. Thanks for joining us. He's loved the way we've improved our studio. How do you recommend looking to get stuff like desks for the studio? Well, the thing I would say especially is the SRA. If your station is part of the SRA, then they have a fantastic tech group that will be really good for answering those type of questions. I'm not a techie person. I could tell you websites that we got stuff from, but they're probably going to have a better answer for you. And we also have new tech officers that are like more focused on student stuff, and they'll be in that group and they'll be able to give a really good answer for all technical queries. It'd be stupid of me to try and answer a tech question to big detail when I don't know that to that extent. They are 100% going to give you the right answer. And an anonymous attendee, that's a weird first name, isn't it? Anonymous. What's the biggest challenge you faced this year engaging with the society? Lots of stations have socials where only committees show up. How do you avoid that happening? I think it is that thing where because we've started this leading from the front, people have wanted to interact, and because we've become the approachable thing. But
yeah, I think the branding worked quite nicely as well. The fact that we showed how inclusive the societies had been and how many people showed up. After the first few, more people wanted to get involved. And you personally, I know, spoke to a lot of people within the society who weren't sure whether to come to socials. You sort of reassured them and almost helped them when they were coming in, just give them someone to chat to and introduce them to other people. It's sort of getting more involved with who's in your society.
I think if you view your society as one big family, when you're creating these socials, by interacting them and opening up a dialogue with them, what type of socials do you want? How come you're not interested in coming? Then that process sort of starts there. Although we had regular socials, we put more emphasis on like the big events, so like our Christmas dinner and all this type of thing. And when that event was coming up, as Ollie said, like we were really keen to get as many people as possible. So I and a couple of other committee members just sort of messaged everyone being like, would love to see you there. Like the people that I'd had one or two interactions with that hadn't seen more and I wanted to know more about, what they were doing. We messaged those people.
Yeah, because I know even I wasn't 100% sure, and my co-host that I do a show with weren't sure whether to come or not. And you persisted and pushed me to add to the numbers, and I was definitely happy that I got more involved.
Well, you weren't just a number. Like I wanted you there to be there. And it was also another thing that like when we had these bigger events like our Christmas dinner, we did like an awards, and it was really important for us as a committee that if we were to do awards, it wasn't just to do the people to award them to the people we knew the best. We wanted it to be something that everyone would get, or all sort of groups would get. And I think that was really important to us, and that worked out quite nicely.
Yeah.
Wow, we're getting loads more questions in. Adam Hurd says, how do you start on trying to find or decide on an identity? This is a really interesting question, and I was worried it would come up because
you don't really know how it happened.
Up the Sonar started by accident.
Yeah.
It was something that we started doing ironically because we felt quite, I'm gonna say insecure. There wasn't the power, the pride in our station that we wish there was. I would say my advice is for finding or deciding identity would be what comes natural to you and your members. Like, what do you think your members and your station would want to interact with? Like, it's very possible your station could be something that wants to be completely industry and serious focus, which is fine. But if there are people within your station that want that sort of more lighthearted element, then that's the type of thing that I would suggest start leaning into. And the other thing I would say is just like opening up that dialogue again. Like something that we've done this year is asking them questions about like what they would want. There's been times where we've gone down a route with the stuff we've tried to do on our social media that hasn't engaged as well as with our society as other stuff. So that's something that we steered away from in the end. So like we started doing silly videos where I pay an angry biker man on Fiverr to talk about Radio Sonar, and we ended up doing a Christmas message. Those went down really well. So that's something that we did more of. But there's times where we tried to do, banter for our station and no one cared for it and things. So my advice would be, take a natural approach with it. Like just do what suits you best, but you just don't force it. And again, it's a really slow process. We've got unbelievably lucky for it to work out as well as it has this year. And I I'm not going to deny that at any point. We've got really lucky with it. But yeah, I would say my advice would be the sort of doing what feels right, doing what feels natural, and don't forcing it. Bronwyn, hi, I'm from Livewire. I love Livewire. They've just done our members survey. There are a few comments about the cliqueiness of committee. Obviously, we really want to work on this the next year. What are your tips to tackle this? I guess it comes back to that thing again. Like, if you're leading from the front and being open and opening yourselves up to your members, like, then that cliqueiness shouldn't be there. Like, we wanted to get across to our members that we're not better than any of them. We just happen to be the people sorting stuff. Like, we wanted them to interact with us and to get engaged with the station as much as we were interacting with them. So we sort of, you know, I made a point to try to be friends with as many people as possible, and I'm really happy I did, because there's so many interesting people within the Student Media Society, especially at Sonar. So my advice for cliqueiness of the committee is make sure you guys are approachable and give yourselves the opportunity for people to be as open and honest with you as possible. Because if people don't feel like they can be as open and honest with your committee, then they're not going to feel as like engaged with it as possible, and that's what you want to achieve at the end of the day. Anonymous attendee, in your experience, how many people in student radio or student media, how many people in it for fun instead of trying to get a job? Does that change your approach to building a committee? That is a tough one, and I could, you know, I know. Sorry, you go on. You take it.
Yeah. From the committee members that I've spoken to, a lot of them are purely looking for not industry experience through radio. It's just the experience of working within a group of people like that, and the communication skills you gain, the confidence that you gain, stuff like that. I feel like it's not solely industry focused.
I think the thing you have to remember is that the people that are doing student media that want to use it to get into a job are going to be keen no matter what. Like, they will be the people that are going to be involved with your society and station no matter what you do. If you want to get those other people involved, and then your approach has to be different, because you have to encourage them to be involved. You know, it's easy enough to get the people involved that want to be in that industry. The real challenge is achieving engagement with people that aren't necessarily as keen to get the job, and they just want to do it for fun. And if you're highlighting to those people that are just having fun with it, then if you're highlighting the opportunities to those people, then they'll slowly become more interested in it as a result. Isaac Marley's here. What a guy. Loved hearing your story about Radio Sonar. What was your relationship with the SU committee like? How important was the relationship with your SU and Graham community? At the beginning of the year, our relationship with the SU wasn't that strong. And at the end of the year, it was really strong. You have to remember, like, a lot of these talks have been about, it's very much a two-way thing. I think SUs and student media, like, if you're helping them, they're more likely to help you back, and vice versa. So if you're a station that wants to improve your relationship with the ISU, then like, you have to be willing to help them out in order to get their return.
You definitely sort of get out what you put in with the student union, especially when it comes to like funding and stuff like that as well.
There's a question here for you, Ollie. We've got two more. We'll razzle through them. Ollie, how different has it been in the last 12 months with the committee really focusing on engaging with the full society?
I think the importance of social media and the communication within that was super important to get me involved. Because personally, I don't know if I'm speaking on behalf of other people, it's like the idea of FOMO, when you see a lot of people within a group that are sort of having fun and collectively getting involved together. You want to be more involved in this, the idea of community. You want to be a part of that community, especially being at university, and you want to meet new people a lot of the time. And I think it was the idea that they were always routined. They were always every week, same place. You know what you're getting, and also they were varied. We did a lot, like we've done bowling, we've done drinking ones, we've done like the Christmas party, we've got football, there's an array of different things that suit different people. And it's nice that we've got a vast amount of members that are now coming to them more regularly as well. So the more that happens, the more you want to be involved, because it feels like a collective.
So last question before we wrap up. Oliver Morgan, Deputy Head of News at Forge Radio in Sheffield. What do you do at Sonar, especially in regards to news making and broadcasting? And as an aside, what did you do at Sonar that you would have done differently? So we don't actually have much news making and broadcasting stuff at the moment. It's something that we sort of looked at introducing this year, but the interest wasn't there from members. I think because of the community and identity we went for, maybe people weren't as interested. There's a lot of journalism courses at our uni that maybe those people interested that were just sort of focused on their courses. And what did you do at Sonar that you would have done differently? I don't think I would have done anything differently at Sonar this year, to be honest. Like I don't think it's quite, as simple as it is. The simple answer is that, like, I'm unbelievably proud and happy of how the year's gone. And we've got so lucky in so many opportunities but I'm really proud of how much the society's grown as a station. Yes, I wish I had a better answer for you, but we've got really lucky and I've enjoyed the luck as a result. So that's all the questions. So we're going to wrap up there. Thank you everyone who's come along to our talk. We'll head over to the coffee table for like 10 minutes or so if anyone wants to come along, say hi and chat to us. But thank you so much to the SRA and Student Ops Festival for this opportunity. If anyone has any questions, then you can find us on our Twitter or anything like that. And we're happy to interact with everyone. Cool. Thanks everyone. Bye.